The Lucknow Pact showed that Muslims and Hindus could work together towards a common aim. When the Khilafat movement was formed, it looked like another example of how the two communities could cooperate. But as time went on, it became apparent that religious differences made it impossible for Muslims and Hindus to work together without communal fears continually undermining the supposed harmony. It should not be thought, however, that the Khilafat movement sprang solely from the British threat to dismember the Turkish Empire. It had its root in a deep-seated mistrust of the way in the West, and Britain in particular treated Muslim countries. Afghanistan and Persia, both Muslim countries, had been the subject of rivalry between Russia and Britain. The two powers had agreed on how Afghanistan and Persia were to be run, but little attention was paid to the views of the native Muslim population. Some Muslims in India considered that the British policy towards Muslims was to encourage in them a fear of Hindus so that Muslims would cooperate with the British. Although there were many Muslims in the British army fighting against Turkey, there were a large number of desertions by soldiers unwilling to fight fellow Muslims in Turkey. Concern about British policy towards Muslims was also shown in 1918 when the president of the Muslim League, Maulvi Fazlul Haq, stated that every instance of a collapse of the Muslim powers of the world is bound to have an adverse influence on the political importance of our community. He called on Muslims to begin cooperating with Hindus. During the First World War, the Turks had fought on the side of the Germans against Britain. This created a serious problem for the British in India. They wanted the Indian Muslims to fight in the war against the Turks, but they knew that Indian Muslims would not take part in any fighting which led to the Khalifa being overthrown or his empire being dismantled. To solve the problem, the British informed the Indian Muslims that the British would respect the rights of the Khalifa and that the Turkish Empire would be maintained. As a result of this promise, thousands of Muslims joined the British army. During the war, the British imprisoned some leading Muslims such as Maulana Muhammad Ali Johar and his brother Maulana Shaukat Ali Johar to try to prevent opposition within India. At the end of the war, peace treaties were drawn up showing how the defeated nations were to be treated. The Treaty of Versailles set out what happened to Germany. Its armed forces were greatly reduced, its colonies taken away, and the country was split into two by the creation of a new country, Poland. The Germans were also forced to pay a huge sum to the victorious allies for the damage caused by the fighting. Similar measures were taken against Germany's ally, Austria. These treaties worried the Muslims in India. In view of the punishment imposed upon Germany and Austria, it was difficult to see how Turkey could be treated any differently. Indeed, the British Prime Minister Lloyd George felt strongly that the Turkish Empire should be split up in the same way that Germany and Austria had seen their empires taken away. The Indian Muslims were outraged at this suggestion and began to organize opposition to the British plan. Turkey was a Muslim country and its ruler, the Sultan, was considered to be Khalifa, the head of the worldwide Islamic community. He ruled over an empire which included important religious centers such as Mecca, Jerusalem and Medina, and was known as the Khilafat. The Sultan was a figure of immense importance in the Muslim world. When the British threatened to take territory away from the Khalifa, Muslims in India were outraged and formed the Khilafat movement to protect the Sultan and their religion. Hope you liked the video. Jazakallah.